back to Litigation Help. My name is Heather Hui-Litwin, and in this video, we're going to talk about who paralegals and law clerks are. So who better to ask than Kristy McLaren? Kristy has her own freelance law clerk business, Clearly Legal, but she also has paralegal qualifications. Good morning, Kristy.
Good morning, Heather. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for having me on Litigation Help. I'm so excited. It's something I've been seeing on LinkedIn and on Facebook a lot, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you finally.
I'm so thrilled that we finally got to meet. All right, so let's jump into it. So what is a paralegal?
That's a big question. And the funny thing is that it's actually not a big question. A paralegal is someone who can go to the tribunals, go to small claims court, not allowed to go to Superior Court of Justice. And there are certain areas of law, like family law, that we don't actually have jurisdiction in.
Mm-hmm.
We're essentially a less expensive way to access justice, a less expensive way to have representation. There's a bit of conversation that we kind of compete with lawyers. We don't really compete with lawyers. It's really more that for the people who are going to small claims court, for the people who are going to the tribunals, we're a little bit easier to access. And we kind of say, all right, so you go and take a paralegal to small claims court, whereas the people who have a little bit more money can take the lawyers to Superior Court of Justice and onwards to places like the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal and all of that.
So what is the training that a paralegal goes through? I know, lawyers go to law school.
The funny thing is that so do paralegals. I mean, it's not paralegal school the way that University of Toronto or Harvard Law or something like that is, right. But I personally went to Seneca. I went to Seneca for, and bear with me, this is a mouthful. I don't know why they called it this, but I guess it was partially because before we were regulated, right. We weren't necessarily paralegals. We were more like court and tribunal agents. And so the program that I did was called the Court and Tribunal Agent Program. Now, I did the accelerated program because I came from university and I could do the accelerated program because I already had some post-secondary. People who did not have post-secondary, people who had come directly from high school, had to do a couple of extra general credits the way that you would in any kind of a regular post-secondary setting. So there I did immigration, labor and employment, business. I did not have to do the introductory to law because I had already studied a lot of law when I was in university and when I was doing my high school courses. It was, for me, a year long. And then at the end of that year, I went and I did a 30-day field placement. And theoretically, by the end of that 30-day field placement, I was ready to go. But the whole thing that I find interesting about the 30-day field placement is that articling students do a 10-month articling period.
Yes.
And paralegals don't get that. I don't know why, but paralegals don't get that. So I personally, after doing my 30-day I was going to say my 30-day tribunal practice, but that's actually not what I was doing. After I had done my 30-day field placement, I ended up having to become a junior legal assistant because no one at the time really knew what paralegals were. This was back in 2002. Paralegals did not become regulated by the Law Society until 2007.
Oh, that recent.
So that recent, and that's a part of the confusion. That's a part of why there are so many paralegals who went on to become legal assistants and law clerks instead.
Actually, right. Okay, so it's interesting because I just want to clarify this for our viewers. So paralegal can actually represent clients at tribunals.
Yes, and actually, thank you, Heather, for bringing that up because sometimes I forget about that. Yes. The big important difference between a law clerk and a legal assistant and a paralegal are that legal assistants and law clerks are support staff only. They cannot represent clients. They cannot give legal advice. The only thing that a law clerk can do, if given a commissioner's stamp is commission and affidavit. But paralegals are able to go to court, go to the tribunal, go to small claims court, go to the tribunals, and commission things just by virtue of having a law society number. And I think that's the key, is that paralegals, even though we don't do a 10-month articling program, we do have to, because we are now regulated, we do have to write the law society test.
That's right.
I wrote my law society test in 2014, and I have a law society number.
Awesome.
I have a law society number, which makes me a paralegal. I'm inactive at the moment as a paralegal, which is why I really only promote myself as a law clerk. But to be honest with you, world, and people who are going to be listening to this podcast, the reason why I am inactive at the moment is because the law society fees are very expensive. And I'm still very new to the world of freelance and still very new to the world of paying for this all by myself. It is fantastic to be a freelancer, and I'm paying for everything on my own.
Right. So I guess in our language and with the lawyers, we use the term sole practitioner, I suppose.
Exactly. In a way, I am a sole practitioner. I'm just a sole practitioner as a law clerk right now. I will shout it from the hilltops when I get to be taking on clients as a paralegal. But right now, I am jumping in with lawyers who need help with their motion records, lawyers who need 10 hours a week. I actually have 2 clients right now who I'm working with 10 hours a week, 10 to 15 hours a week, because they've got some staffing issues and they know that they need to grow. They know that their business is growing, but they either don't have the capital yet to actually hire someone on full time, or they're at a bit of a crossroads and they don't necessarily know what that full-time help looks like quite yet. And so you need to have the work continue, even when you don't necessarily have the full-time support staff to get the work done.
Right.